Let's dive right into this explainer and cackle something we literally all deal with, that dreadful 7:30 p.m. dinner panic. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? Well, today, we're unpacking a massive paradigm shift in how we approach our kitchens. We're looking at weekly meal planning basics, but definitely not as some stressful collection of fancy, complicated recipes. Instead, we're going back to first principles to build a wholesome system that is actually going to save you time, money, and a whole lot of mental energy. Let's just start right here. Why on earth is deciding what to eat so incredibly exhausting? We have all been there. You're just standing there, staring blankly into the fridge, feeling completely and utterly drained. And I really want to validate that feeling for a second. If meal planning has ever felt like you're just piling extra work onto your already full plate, it's probably because you're looking at it the wrong way. You might think it's about hoarding recipes or strictly controlling your food, but it's really not. The exhaustion actually comes from the sheer volume of repeated, everyday decisions we force ourselves to make from scratch every single night. At its core, meal planning is really just about controlling uncertainty. I love this analogy. Think of your brain exactly like a smartphone battery. Every tiny decision you make throughout the day, what to cook, what groceries to buy, how to use up what's already sitting in the pantry, each one of those is like a little app running in the background, quietly eating up your battery power. One app? Totally fine. But 10 apps running all day long, your battery is going to drain super fast. Meal planning simply closes some of those background apps. You aren't creating more work for yourself at all. You are literally just relocating that mental effort upstream to a calmer time when your brain is actually rested enough to handle it. All right, moving into section 1. The meal planning myth versus reality. To really embrace this complete mindset shift away from scrambling and improvising every night, we have to look at the contrast between our old habits and this new system. The old way treats a plan like a rigid, inflexible script, or it tries to maximize your freedom by keeping every meal completely separate and disconnected. But let's be honest, having total freedom at 7:30 p.m. isn't freedom, it's just friction. The new way, however, treats your plan more like a rail system. The tracks are already laid down, your train just smoothly moves along them. You set clear boundaries, you actually embrace repetition, and you start viewing your entire week as one connected chain. Let's rapidly fire through the 6 core truths that make this new system tick. Number 1, decide early. Use your calm brain time instead of your tired brain time. 2, set boundaries to drastically reduce the number of open choices you have to make. 3, think in weeks, because, surprise, your meals actually do affect each other. 4, keep it simple, so the system actually survives the chaos of real life. 5, save your attention to lower that daily mental load. And number 6, fit your actual life. Match your plan to your very real constraints. The biggest takeaway here is that planning is simply deciding on things before the pressure of hunger and fatigue kicks in. And speaking of setting boundaries, think about a simple fence around a vegetable garden. Now, the fence itself doesn't magically grow the vegetables, right? But it does something just as crucial. It protects the space so the vegetables actually have a chance to develop. A meal plan does the exact same thing for your week. It limits your decision space. It tells you right up front what meals are available and what choices are already good enough, so your tired mind doesn't have to evaluate endless open-ended options night after night. Which brings us to section 2, the 4 moving parts of designing your week. So a real weekly plan is far, far from being some perfect, pristine calendar of meals. It's actually a pattern of movement, not just a static list. If you treat your meals as a disconnected, neat little list, like, okay, Monday is pasta, Tuesday is curry, it is just as exhausting as scheduling random appointments across opposite ends of town. The real magic, the real value, is in how your meals actually support each other to create a steady rhythm. There are 4 crucial parts here: time, energy, ingredients, and repetition. And they are constantly pushing and pulling on each other. Time obviously dictates when you can actually cook. Energy dictates how much mental and physical effort you can exert. Ingredients dictate what food is even available to you. And repetition dictates how often those meals loop back around. When a meal plan feels off or just way too hard to stick to, it is almost always because one of these 4 elements is being completely ignored. Like, if your energy is notoriously low on Thursdays, well, your plan absolutely needs to account for the simplest possible meal that day. I really want to pause on that last part for a second. Repetition. Beginners almost always assume a good meal plan has to maximize variety. Every night has to be a brand new culinary adventure. But repetition is definitely not the enemy of good eating. Honestly, it is the exact thing that makes planning possible in the first place. Just like you have a reliable morning routine or a familiar commute to work, repeating your meals isn't some sort of failure. It's a necessary efficiency. It gives your entire week a solid backbone.
Let's shift gears to Section 3, Designing for Real Life, because flexibility absolutely matters.
A massive piece of designing for actual messy real life is completely changing how we view leftovers. We really need to redefine leftovers from being just a happy accident, something that just happens if you cook too much food, to an intentional, highly powerful tool. Imagine cooking one single time and getting dinner for tonight, lunch for tomorrow, and maybe a backup meal for a crazy busy day later in the week. One meal literally becomes a supportive seat for the next. This drastically reduces the amount of cooking and decision-making you have to do. It's a total game changer.
But hey, real life is unpredictable. Somebody runs late, you're missing a key ingredient, or you just get home completely exhausted. Think of a rope bridge to kind of visualize this need for flexibility. If a meal plan is way too rigid, like a fragile, perfect script where every dinner has to happen exactly as you imagined it, it's going to crack under the slightest stress. But if it has just enough movement, just enough give, if it's a framework with interchangeable parts or intentionally simple backup meals built in, it bends without breaking.
And finally, Section 4, your new kitchen mindset. This right here is the hidden skill. To bring this all together, there's a hidden underlying skill that's going to make this system actually stick for you week after week. People generally think constraints make planning harder, but the reality? Constraints make planning possible. If you know exactly how much time, money, and energy you actually have to work with, designing the system becomes so much easier. Limits are not punishments, they're your design tools. They shape something workable. Narrowing your choices isn't a weakness, it is pure clarity. It provides immediate mental relief because it tells you exactly what realistic shape your week can take.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. The next time you're staring down a jam-packed schedule or looking into a fridge full of random ingredients, I want you to stop asking, what can I make right now? And instead, start asking, what arrangement will make this week easier? That one single question replaces the need to scroll through endless recipes. It turns everyday food decisions into a quiet, calming advantage, completely setting your future self up for success. Try asking yourself that question this coming Sunday morning and just watch how much daily friction disappears from your week. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer.